Thank you for inviting me to speak to you all. I am Zola. My mother, Chayela Rosenthal, was just a 17-year-old when she earned the title Wunderkind Star of the Vilna Ghetto, lifting spirits, providing hope, sweet memories, and inspiring the emotional expression of everyone when she sang and performed on the Ghetto Theatre stage. The theatre that provided a temporary escape from the pain of loss, from the suffering and harsh reality of daily life in the ghetto. A place where the community could come together for comfort and support, where their feelings, fears, thoughts were validated, where they could even laugh together at the absurdity of their situation, a place where their humanity and dignity was restored, if only for a short time. Because the Jews had lost so many family and friends killed in the Aktiona and massacred in the Ponari forest, the idea of performing theatre in the ghetto was met with a lot of opposition. People who claimed, "We do not play theatre on a graveyard." But the Judenrat leader Jacob Gens knew it would be good for the spiritual morale of the community, and that it could save more lives by providing legitimate work and work permits for actors, musicians, writers, artists, and more. And so the concerts began, and from the start, they proved to be sensitive, dignified, and uplifting enough to placate the naysayers. The first theatre performances were held in Rudnika Street School Hall, where the Judenrat had their offices. But, due to the increasing number of audiences soon thereafter, the theatre was moved to the old municipal hall on Konske Street, with an official opening of this Vilna Ghetto Theatre in April 1942. This was sponsored by the Judenrat's cultural department, and the first audiences were mostly made up of administrative elite and German officers. But soon, Jacob Gens realized that he could also use the concerts and reviews as an opportunity to promote his work for life agenda, which he began to do in the speeches that he gave to the audiences at the shows that were then opened up to all. Theatre performances included symphony and choir concerts, and also 4 full-length dramatic plays by famous writers, including Grüne Felder, Green Fields, where my mother Chayela played the leading female role. Initially, there were also a number of music variety concerts that included random, unrelated musical pieces, puppet shows, some poetry readings, and dramatic readings. Here is a poster of the first program. These programs were each only performed once. This is a poster of the first concert in which my mother performed the song YIsrolik, that was written in the ghetto by Misha Wexler, who composed the music, and her brother, my Uncle Leyb Rozental, who wrote the lyrics. Leyb was a member of the well-known literary group Jung Vilna, and he was, already before the war started, a published poet and songwriter with many hits on the radio, some of which were sung by my mother too. In the ghetto, Leyb's song lyrics now focused on ghetto life, and in the song YIsrolik, which means Little Israel, he references the nickname given to many orphan boys in the ghetto whose parents were taken away and killed in the Aktiona. The orphan boys had to fend for themselves, and they survived smuggling things on the black market. They sold cigarettes and saccharin, and Leyb's boy YIsrolik tells of how, despite his sad situation, he would rather whistle and sing a song than dwell on his sorrows. Why talk about your sorrow? Why think about your heartache? Better don't talk. Just think about tomorrow. Here is YIsrolik, sung by my mother Chayela.
Kolcie papierosy, no kolcie saccharin, Geboren ist ein teure Billigwerk, a Leben voller Groß, a Brute ein Partie, und Ghetto-Händler hat ihr doch gehört. Hey, YIsrolik, bin das Kind von Ghetto, hey, YIsrolik, a heftiger dicker Jung, hat verblieben, volle Netto, der lang ist, als noch hat Licht und a Blut. Hat verblieben, volle Netto, der lang ist, als noch hat Licht und a Blut. A Mantel und a Kragen, sagt ihm und a Rot, a losen Kopf, nor soll mir Geschichte, nor werfen mir Gedanken, zu lachen, oh ja klar, kann ich jenen und wenn ich weiß, wer bin ich? Hey, YIsrolik, bin das Kind von Ghetto, hey, YIsrolik, a heftiger dicker Jung, und verblieben, volle Netto, der lang ging eins noch, hat Gischte und a Gut. Und verblieben, volle Netto, der lang ging eins noch, hat Gischte und a Gut. Nur für mein Treue, besser als man restlich, eins mein Liebe, ohne Werte rett viele mehr.
Leyb mostly wrote his poetry and songs at night. By day, Leyb's job was working at YIVO, the Jewish Scientific Institute, and while saving valuable manuscripts, books, and documents with his fellow Paper Brigade members, he and his friend Sutzkever also smuggled into the ghetto precious literature that was used at special events hosted by the Literary Club, an event depicted in a poster that you will see in this exhibit too. And this event was described by 13-year-old Yitzchak Rudashevsky, who wrote in his diary, "Looking at the exhibition, we actually forgot that we are in a dark ghetto. The mood and the celebration was an exalted one. It was indeed a holiday." Leyb also wrote songs for the ghetto's children to sing with their Jugend Club, the youth club that also held special events and meetings, and you will also see some of these advertised in the posters in this exhibit. Over 40 new Yiddish songs were written in the Vilna Ghetto, and many of these songs were featured in the now newly written original full-length musicals called reviews. There were 4 such reviews, written predominantly by Kazriel Broido, Misha Wexler, and my Uncle Leyb. The first reviews, Korene Joren, und Weh zu die Tag, Days of Corn and Days of Woe, and the second review, Men can gar nicht wissen, You can never know, were written in 1942 and performed many times over the following year. The theme of loneliness, isolation, and despair in the ghetto was evident in Leyb's song Schotten's, Shadows, which was sung by Dora Rubina, and also in Broido's song, Bei uns ist ständig finster. Translated, It is always dark with us. But Leyb was also known to use his wit and his humor and satire to allow audience to laugh at the absurd craziness of their own dreadful circumstances. A typical example of his satirical song is Men darf sich kennen halten. You have to know how to behave. There were also many songs to inspire hope and determination to survive, like his song Nicht gedeiget, es wird sein besser. Don't despair, it will get better. I've been told by many survivors over and over again how these songs were such a blessing and a gift of light in their lives. It would be saving them when they were drowning in despair, fear, and sadness. They would sing the song in the ghetto streets, at home, at work, because it gave them something personal to hold on to, a little bit of dignity, some joy or comfort and solace. Just as the partisans took up arms, attending performances was in and of itself a form of resistance. In the ghetto, spiritual resistance was truly powerful in many forms, as we've seen by the continuity of religious observances, through the work of all who preserved, saved, or hid important books and documents, and especially in those who established, created, and participated in educational and cultural events and activities, like sports, games, arts, science lectures, music, and theatre. Theatre, which did seem to be the most popular. In fact, in just 1 year, there were over 110 performances, with almost 35,000 tickets sold. The money was used for common needs of the ghetto and also to support the poor. Because coming to the theatre created a legitimate place for many of the community to come together at once, the writers would sometimes cleverly hide phrases in their scripts that would divulge important news, or highlight acts of corruption, or give information about underground meetings or escape plans. But in general, the storyline and texts of each review incorporated the experience, events, and feelings of the ghetto life as the months went by. Themes and scenes that covered the daily life, the aktiona, the massacres at Ponari, the hunger, the distribution of work permits, everything was covered. But the audience was also reminded of their once familiar, normal life's warm feelings of romance, of joy, humor, with songs like A Liebe von a Ghetto Moit, the love of a ghetto girl, and Ich hab sich verliebt, I fell madly in love. The third musical review was written in June of 1943, when the outlying ghettos were being liquidated and many Jews had just arrived to the Vilna Ghetto from Reshe, which was another camp 30 kilometers away. The review was titled Peshe von Reshe, and the role of Peshe, an orphan girl, was played by my mother. Here is a poster from the Peshe from Reshe concert. The character of Peshe, lonely and homeless, realizes that to stay alive, she must be strong and cheerful despite her awful situation. She must pretend to be part of a family of strangers so that she can get a work permit. And she had to sing about her crazy abnormal life, where sisters pretended to be brothers, grandparents pretended to be grandchildren, and strangers pretended to be married. But when Chayela, as Peshe, sang the song Ich Benk Aheym about missing her home, everyone in the audience related to those shared feelings of mourning, loss, and longing for home. And even some of the German soldiers attending the concerts cried as she sang. Wenn Mensch bist jung, is groß dein Schwung. When you are young, desire burns. You leave the nest and learn to fly, only to find you can't return. Verlost, vergesst dein Heim, dein Nest. Die Zeit kommt nicht zurück. Wenn's kommt die Älteren, tust du sich an der Mann und trachst, was ist geschehen? What happened? Ich will noch einmal sehen mein Heim. Sie ist noch als dort wie gewesen. Vier Wände, a Tischel and a chair, I left my childhood over there. Ich Benk Aheym. I long to see my home again, just as it used to be back then. My Schwester's paintings on the wall, the rug I tripped on in the hall, mein arm Heim. Ich will noch einmal sehen mein Mama's flowers she would grow, my Tate's favorite radio. I miss my home, the steps on which I scraped my knee, the wooden gate, the lemon tree. These precious memories I keep, weil die Zeit kommt nicht zurück. I miss my home. Ich Benk Aheym. The song Pach sich ein, Pack Up, resonated very strongly with everyone, and especially with those prisoners being sent out of Vilna to the Estonian labor camps. Again, it was time to pack a little suitcase and leave. But everyone still sang with new hope that perhaps they would soon be liberated. The partisans also took songs like Zu, Ein, Zwei, Drei, Ahead, 1, 2, 3. And they took other stirring songs of defiance, resistance, and determination and optimism with them as they marched through the forests. The fourth and final review, Moishe Halt sich, Moishe, Hold On, was written and performed in the autumn of 1943 as more prisoners were being deported to the labor camps outside of the ghetto. The character Moishe is concerned that he will not be able to hide or escape the ghetto, and he is encouraged in the uplifting title song to hold on, to hold his head high, and to keep believing that freedom was coming, and to keep striving for a better tomorrow. Right up to the last days of the Vilna Ghetto before its liquidation, the audiences came to this review, and despite wondering if the next day would be their last, they still sat in the theatre and sang along to the inspiring lyrics of songs that held the promise of freedom, ultimate victory, and vindication. Leyb's song, Mir Leybn Eybik, We Live Forever, sums up the strength, determination, and courage of the Jewish people who, even in the face of indescribable suffering and hardship, will not give up, and who will defiantly continue preserving our culture, our rich culture, our legacy, and our faith. As we proudly sing, we will survive, we will overcome all, and we will thrive. We will live forever. And yes, we are still here. Wir seien da. We live forever, the world's ablaze. We live forever, without money these days. We'll show the enemy we will not play their game, and we will not hide our faces in shame. We'll live forever, here we all are. We'll live forever, in every hour. We want to live and to survive. Bad times we'll overcome and thrive. We'll live forever. We are still here. Mir Leybn Eybik, es brennt der Welt. Mir Leybn Eybik, ohne Groschen Geld. Und euch zerpucken nicht die alles und nimm, was willen uns verschwarzen unser Ponym. Mir Leybn Eybik in jeder Show. Mir Leybn Eybik, wir seien da. Wir wollen leben und erleben schlechter Zeiten, aber überleben. Mir Leybn Eybik. Wir seien da.